Dipper!
What happens when the monster hunting your family still wears the face of someone you love? In the previous chapter of Cannibal Dipper, Bill Cipher managed to take over Dipper's body and began a disturbing quest to experience every human sensation. First, he discovered pain, and then hunger. Grenda became his first victim, while Mabel fled the Mystery Shack, unable to comprehend what had happened to her brother. Now, alongside Grunkle Stan, she must find a way to rescue him before Bill completely destroys his mind. But time is running out. Dipper's body continues to warp, adapting to every atrocity committed, slowly turning into something that no longer even looks human. As Dipper fights from the inside to regain control, Bill is preparing his next move, and this time, Grenda might not be the only person close to Mabel who ends up becoming part of his macabre experiment. Welcome back to Digitalverse. Today, we're continuing with part 2 of Cannibal Dipper, our terrifying Gravity Falls AU. We return to the Mystery Shack, where Wendy and Candy watch in bewilderment as Grunkle Stan runs desperately after Mabel. Neither of them understands what's happening, but there's something in the youngest Pine's expression that unsettles them even more. Mabel looks completely terrified, as if she were trying to escape a danger only she knows about. Despite their concern, Wendy and Candy decide to stay behind. They both feel a strange presence watching them from inside the shack. The windows remain dark, and the place looks abandoned. However, at times, they think they can make out a shadow moving behind the curtains. They also find it strange that Dipper isn't with his sister, especially after seeing the sheer terror reflected on Mabel's face. Convinced that something terrible is happening, they gather enough courage to enter the Mystery Shack. Right from the start, they find the inside completely trashed. Furniture is out of place, objects are scattered across the floor, and there are strange stains on some of the walls. A heavy silence envelops the whole house, as if a supernatural presence is dwelling within, tracking their every move. As they make their way down the hallways, the floorboards creak beneath their feet. In some rooms, they hear unsettling noises, but every time they try to track down the source, they find absolutely nothing. The deeper they go into the shack, the more intense the feeling of being watched becomes. At a certain point, Wendy and Candy decide to split up to find Dipper faster. One of them would check the main floor rooms, while the other would continue down the hall. However, splitting up would turn out to be the worst decision they could have possibly made. Candy walks alone until she comes across an open door. As she approaches, she hears a strange noise coming from the other side. At first, she thinks someone is moving things around, but she soon makes out something far more disturbing. It's heavy breathing, accompanied by wet, sickening sounds. Seconds later, a blood-curdling scream shatters the silence of the shack. Immediately after, there's a loud crash, as if something heavy has hit the floor. Wendy recognizes her friend's voice and sprints desperately toward the noise. When she arrives, she finds the door closed again. There's no response from the inside. Wendy knocks several times, but no one answers. After a few seconds of uncertainty, she slowly turns the knob and opens the door very carefully. What she finds on the other side absolutely horrifies her. Right in front of her is Dipper Pines, hunched over Candy's body, devouring her entrails. His clothes, his face, and his hands are covered in blood. However, the most terrifying thing isn't the sheer brutality of the scene, but the boy's expression. Dipper slowly looks up. His eyes look completely empty, and a disturbing smile spreads across his face. He shows no guilt, no fear, or no remorse. He simply stands there, watching Wendy in silence, with Candy's blood dripping through his fingers. Wendy backs away, unable to comprehend how the kid she knew could have turned into something so monstrous. However, everything points to the fact that Candy wasn't his first victim. Inside that room might also be the remains of Grenda, one of Mabel's best friends. Just as we saw in chapter 1, this explains why Mabel fled the shack in absolute terror. She had discovered what her brother had done and realized she could be his next victim. The scene ends on a massive cliffhanger. It's not revealed if Wendy manages to escape, if Dipper ends her life too, or if someone arrives in time to save her. The only sure thing is that Wendy has just discovered the terrifying truth behind Dipper's strange behavior, and the reason why Mabel was so utterly terrified. We flash back to the past once again. Dipper is on the roof of the Mystery Shack, trying to crack the code on the mysterious laptop. He's been trying different passwords for quite some time, but none of them work. The more his attempts fail, the greater his desperation grows. The boy slams the keyboard in frustration. He knows the device could hold the answers to Gravity Falls secrets, but all that information remains just out of reach. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifts completely. Clouds begin to gather over the shack, and the giant eye appears in the middle of the sky. Its shape is disturbing and unnatural, as if the creature doesn't belong in this world. The eye remains motionless, staring intently at Dipper. Shortly after, an unsettling voice invades his mind. As he speaks these words, the entity begins to warp. Its eye stretches, its figure twists, and several impossible shapes appear around it. The creature seems to be trying to take on a form comprehensible to the human mind, though the result only makes it even more terrifying. Dipper freezes for a few seconds. The offer is tempting, as Bill is giving him exactly what he's been looking for so long. However, the boy knows that accepting help from a creature like this could have terrible consequences. Ultimately, Dipper rejects the offer. The giant eye disappears, and the sky slowly returns to normal. Even so, Bill doesn't give up. He now knows what Dipper's greatest desire is, and he only needs to wait until the kid is desperate enough to accept. The scene shifts, showing us what Bill Cipher's second temptation would be. Once again, we see Dipper trying to figure out the laptop's password, but this time, the situation is much more dire. A warning pops up on the screen, indicating that all stored data will be erased in 5 minutes. Dipper watches in horror as the countdown begins. He tries different combinations and frantically checks his notes, but nothing works. Every passing second brings him closer to losing all the answers he's been searching for. That's when Bill appears in front of him. This time, the entity's appearance is slightly closer to his original design, though his features are much more realistic and unsettling. His single eye stares at Dipper with a mocking expression as a huge grin forms on his face. Bill completely ignores the warning. Instead of leaving, he lingers around the boy, watching the laptop's countdown timer. Dipper is suspicious and asks what he wants in return. Bill replies that all he needs is a puppet. Though he tries to play it off as a petty request, it quickly becomes clear he's referring to one of the puppets used by Mabel. Dipper refuses immediately. He knows those belong to his sister, and he isn't willing to hand them over without her permission. However, Bill already knows his insecurities and begins to use them against him. The entity reminds him of all the times Mabel has ignored his concerns. He also brings up the times Dipper abandoned his own plans to help her, even though she rarely shows the same level of commitment when he needs something. Dipper tries to ignore him and focuses back on the laptop, but time keeps ticking down, and Bill's words begin to echo in his mind. The creature reminds him of every argument, every missed opportunity, and every time he had to give up something important to protect his sister. Bill slowly twists those memories, feeding the resentment Dipper had tried to hide. Dipper looks back at the timer. Only a few seconds remain before all the data is wiped out. Bill extends his hand, offering him one last chance. Dipper remains silent. He knows he shouldn't trust him, but he also realizes he's about to lose all the answers he's worked so hard to find. Finally, desperation gets the better of him. Dipper accepts the deal. As soon as their hands meet, a strange energy courses through his body. Dipper tries to pull away, but it's already too late. His pupils slowly begin to change, and a blank expression takes over his face. Bill smiles, seeing his plan has worked. The screen fades to black just before revealing the true consequences of their deal. Through this, we understand that Bill didn't just want one of Mabel's puppets. The puppet he was really after was Dipper himself. The scene shows Gabe Benson walking down the lonely streets of Gravity Falls, toward the theater where Mabel's show is supposed to take place. The night is dark and eerily quiet. The dim light of a few street lamps illuminate the path, while a light fog rolls over the streets. Gabe walks calmly, unaware that someone is watching him in the shadows. Suddenly, a figure slowly begins to emerge at the end of the street. At first, Gabe can't make out who it is. The silhouette stands completely still, hidden in the darkness. But after a few seconds, the figure takes a step forward into the light of a street lamp. It's Dipper Pines. The boy stands in the middle of the street, watching him from a distance with an unsettling smile. His posture is strangely stiff, and he doesn't seem surprised to run into Gabe there. Confused, Gabe squints, taking a few seconds to recognize him in the dark. The boy doesn't answer. Gabe tries to get closer, thinking maybe Dipper is also heading to Mabel's show. However, as he steps closer to the light, he discovers something terrifying. Dipper is covered in blood. His clothes are stained, his hands are completely soaked, and drops are still falling from his fingers. Despite his gruesome appearance, he maintains that disturbing smile as if he enjoys watching the fear begin to take hold of Gabe. The teen slowly backs away. At that moment, Dipper raises his head and his eyes take on an intense yellow glow. Gabe realizes that what's standing in front of him isn't really Dipper, but the entity now controlling his body. Fear completely overwhelms him. Gabe turns around and tries to run, but Bill Dipper vanishes from his spot in a flash. Before he can even cry for help, the creature appears right in front of him, blocking his path. Gabe barely has time to react as Bill Dipper lunges at him. His scream pierces the silence of the night, though it is snuffed out seconds later. The street falls dead silent once again, as a shadow slowly drags his body into the darkness. The scene cuts to an exterior shot of the theater. Unlike the streets, the place is packed with people eagerly waiting for Mabel's show to start. No one seems to know what just happened only a few blocks away. Among the crowd is Jesus Ramirez, who is starting to feel increasingly worried. He looks around for Stan Pines, Wendy Corduroy, Dipper, and the rest, but none of them seem to have arrived. At first, he tries to convince himself they're just running late, but after waiting for several minutes, he realizes something isn't right. Stan would never miss an important show of Mabel's, and it makes no sense for both Wendy and Dipper to be missing at the same time. Worried, Seuss pulls out his phone and pulls up Stan's number. He's about to hit the call button when a familiar voice interrupts him. Seuss looks up to find Dipper standing right in front of him. At first glance, the boy looks completely normal. His clothes are clean, there are no bloodstains on him, and his face holds an innocent expression. Even his yellow eyes momentarily revert to normal, hiding any trace of Bill's presence. Even so, Seuss senses something off about his behavior. Dipper smiles calmly, though his gaze remains cold and devoid of emotion. Seuss looks at his phone and then back at Dipper. For a second, he considers calling them anyway, but the confidence in the boy's voice makes him hesitate. Current status, combat ready. Sanity, moderately stable. Health, 80%. Wendy managed to survive a brief encounter with Bill Dipper, though she barely made it out alive. Her body bears several wounds and the encounter left a clear mark on her psyche. Despite remaining conscious and ready to defend herself, she's still trying to grasp the nature of the creature that took over her friend's body. During the fight, Bill Dipper managed to escape, but before vanishing, he mentioned he had to find and destroy a book. Wendy doesn't know what object he was referring to, though she suspects it might hold crucial information about the mysteries of Gravity Falls and the entity behind everything that's happening. Now she knows Dipper is still in danger and that there's still a chance to save him. Armed and ready for a fight, Wendy decides to track him down, find the mysterious book before Bill does, and uncover what lies behind this nightmare. However, her sanity is starting to slip. The images of their encounter are burned into her mind, and she can no longer be sure how long she'll hold out before losing her grip on reality. Current status, in shock. Sanity, 50%. Health, 50%. Shortly after her run-in with Grunkle Stan, Mabel returns to the Mystery Shack. There, she discovers that another of her friends was brutally murdered by Dipper. The revelation completely shatters whatever emotional stability she had left. Consumed by grief and guilt, Mabel stays outside the shack, unable to process everything that's happened. She believes her brother has turned into a monster and starts wondering if she could have done something to stop it. Just then, a small puppet resembling Dipper floats up in front of her. The figure claims to be the real Dipper and reveals that Bill Cipher took control of his body. He also explains that he's now trapped outside of it and has been trying to find a way to warn her about the danger. Realizing her brother wasn't the one who actually committed those atrocities, Mabel hugs the puppet tightly and bursts into tears. She apologizes for being a bad sister, for ignoring his worries, and for never realizing everything Dipper sacrificed for her. Mabel thanks God that her real brother is still alive and promises to help him get his body back. However, her mind is so damaged that it's impossible to know if that puppet actually holds Dipper's soul, or if it's just a hallucination brought on by her trauma. Maybe Dipper really did manage to reach her. Maybe Bill is using a new trick to manipulate her. There's also the chance that Mabel has simply lost touch with reality. In Gravity Falls, you can never be entirely sure. Current status: searching for the journal. Sanity: non-existent. Health: unknown. Bill Dipper shows up with a deeply unsettling smile, wearing Gabe Benson's clothes. We know that just minutes prior, he ended Gabe's life and decided to change clothes to hide the bloodstains so he could enter the theater without raising suspicion. At first glance, he still has Dipper's face, but his expression gives away that something is terribly wrong. His smile is way too wide, his movements seem artificial, and his yellow eyes flash for brief moments before returning to normal. We as viewers know this isn't the real Dipper. Bill Cipher is hiding inside his body, using him as a puppet to commit all sorts of atrocities. This stat card also reveals a key part of his true plan. Bill doesn't just want to cause suffering, manipulate the townsfolk of Gravity Falls, and have fun at his victims' expense. His main goal is to find Dipper's journal and destroy it before someone figures out how to banish him from the boy's body. While digging through Dipper's deepest memories, Bill discovered Dipper was getting dangerously close to understanding the greatest secrets of Gravity Falls. The journal contains research, symbols, and potential weaknesses that could pose a real threat to him. After searching the mystery shack and coming empty, Bill concluded that the journal might be hidden among the props for Mabel's show. That's why he's heading to the theater in Gabe's clothes, pretending to be a completely normal Dipper. Now he's mingling with the audience, searching for the journal while trying to avoid suspicion. No one knows how many people he has murdered since taking over Dipper's body, nor what new horrors he plans to unleash inside the theater. The only sure thing is that he needs to find the journal before Wendy and Mabel do. If he manages to destroy it, he might also eliminate the last chance of saving the real Dipper. And that wraps up this disturbing take on Gravity Falls, a story where Dipper's desperation was exploited by Bill Cipher to hijack his body and turn him into a puppet. Although there is still a chance to save him, Wendy and Mabel must find the journal before Bill can destroy it. However, with both of their sanities crumbling and the theater turning into the stage for his next scheme, there's no telling who will make it out alive. Now, I want to hear your thoughts. Do you think Mabel actually spoke with the real Dipper, or was it all a trauma-induced hallucination? Will Wendy manage to find the journal and stop Bill before it's too late? Leave your theories in the comments. And if you want us to keep exploring this story, drop a like on the video and subscribe to Digitalverse so you don't miss the next part.